Fans have been describing Andor as the best Star Wars show yet, and many of us can't wait to see how the final episode pans out. But put your pilot helmets on, guys, and strap in, because we have some new leaks for episode 12. Unfortunately, there isn't a load of new leaks, so the ones we do have are rare, but they are an important part of Star Wars history. We'll start with the new leaks, and then we'll go over some cool older ones, which I'll be able to tell you if they're real or not, and that allows us to paint a good picture on what we can expect to see for episode 12. And if you've been keeping a close eye on Andor leaks previously, you'll know that for the most part, the relevant ones now are to do with the appearance of characters, which we'll cover in a moment, but the new leaks have to do with things that are happening in the season final itself, and a post-credits scene that will really begin to tie things into Rogue One. This is due to some of the members of the press actually getting to see the season final of Andor early, and although the leaker doesn't want to spoil the ending entirely, they have given us a cool look into some of the things we can expect to see. And I'm sorry for anyone who was hoping to see Darth Vader burst in and start slicing and dicing rebels, but it's not quite that. Instead, they've gone on to say that Marva's funeral in episode 12 will be the beginning of the rebellion on Ferrix, which is actually meant to involve the locals and not just Luthen's lot that we know will be there as well. And there's a couple of reasons on why this could be the case, with Marva being the main source of influence for both of them. The first one could be the locals aren't happy with how the Empire are restricting funeral plans. We know Marva was a hugely respected and loved member of the Ferrix Society, and she's due a big send-off, but we know that Dead Ramiro of the ISB has told the officers on Ferrix to let them hold the funeral, but with restricted numbers, in an attempt to box them in. The locals could see this as being really disrespectful and kick back against the idea. Now, the second and most likely reason actually matches up with a big leak, which I'll pull up in a moment, which also alludes to something we've heard Marva say in the show already. If we think back to episode 7, when Cassian returns to see her after the Aldani attack, Marva explains that the reason she's not leaving Ferrix with him is because of the rebellion, that Ferrix has been hiding long enough and the rebellion will never win if she and everyone else just runs away. Now, we know Marva's dead, but she didn't go without leaving a message behind, a message left in the form of a hologram, which you can see here. It's unlikely, I think, that this message is a list of chores to do or who's going to inherit her best coat, but it's more likely going to be a rallying cry for the people to stand up against the Empire and fight back, echoing her last conversation with Cassian. Now, this might not seem like much on the surface, but it's actually a huge deal. Not only can her message inspire the locals that have been just surviving under the Empire to stand up, but I think it'll be the final message Cassian needs to pledge himself to the cause once and for all, which will end up with Cassian playing a huge part in retrieving the Death Star plans in Rogue One. So in all fairness, we should consider Marva as the grandmother of the rebellion. That might all seem very rosy and promising, but this is Star Wars, and we already know that the story doesn't quite go that smoothly. As the rebellion gets what we can call a nice win, so does the Empire. After the final episode finishes, we have a post-credit scene that reveals what the prisoners were being forced to build inside the Nakina 5 prison, and I can confirm it is the Death Star. Obviously still under construction and not yet operational, the post-credit scene is described as beginning with a close-up shot of a droid assembling the star-shaped pieces that we saw being built in the Nakina 5 prison, and you can see these pictures now on a large platform in space. As the camera pans out, we see a lot of these droids doing the same thing, which really emphasizes just how big of a job it actually is. As the camera continues to pan out, we see the skeleton of the Death Star. These leaks come from a Reddit user called Main Imagination 214, corroborated by Bespin Bulletin as well. So these are pretty cool and some solid leaks. However, we do have some bad news too. I hope you're sitting down, guys, because this might hurt some of you. From the same source as these leaks, they also confirmed in reply to another user that the report from 2021 from the Directs regarding Ben Mendelsohn returning as Director Krennic is not true, which surprised me because I thought this one would have made a ton of sense. But as well as this, I then reached out myself to ask about Bail Organa being in the show, which was reported even further back in May 2020, and it looks like Bail Organa isn't making an appearance in the show either. Now, it's worth noting how old these two reports are, and they might have been true at some stage, but in the world of showbiz, things can change very quickly and ideas are often scrapped. Initially, I thought introducing Krennic would have set him up nicely as being one of the main antagonists for season 2, and Bail Organa could have been on the flip side to that. It's interesting to me that they're not going to appear in season 1, but it definitely hasn't been ruled out that both of these characters will make an appearance in season 2, or more than that, be central players in the next season, which of course we won't know for sure until it airs, which will probably be towards the end of 2024. But fret not, guys, as we've still got one more episode to go, and then we've got the good old Mandalorian to look forward to in February. Speaking about one more episode though, there is one more piece of information I'd like to share with you, which I'll come on to in a moment. But before we do, I want to add some of my thoughts on where the show is heading for season 2. On the back of some of the official updates we've received from the creator of Andor, Tony Gilroy himself, Gilroy done a few interviews not long ago where he told us a new director called Tom Bissell will be joining for season 2, who is a huge Star Wars fan, and it's hoped he will help tie the series into Rogue One. We already know that places such as Yavin 4 will be making an appearance as well, so it only feels natural to me for both Krennic and Bail Organa to both be featured in season 2. Looking to tie things in directly to Rogue One. I can't imagine you would all of a sudden have these two big figures in the rebellion just spring out of nowhere. And I think they could even be central characters in the next season, with Bail Organa helping to lead the rebellion alongside Mon Mothma, whilst Krennic on the other hand could be dealing with a load of rebel incidents that are indirectly affecting his job of completing the Death Star. The rebellion knows the Empire is up to something with all these resources they're pulling from the galaxy, and are doing everything they can to stop him before they find out in Rogue One what they're actually up to. Before we get there, we've still got episode 12, which could bring us some other returning characters that we haven't spoke about yet. And talking about episode 12, going back to what I said earlier about one more thing to share, and that's the runtime for the season final, which is said to be 54 minutes and 11 seconds. And if that doesn't include credits, then that's the longest episode of the show yet. And if it does include credits, it'll still be the second longest episode, just behind episode 8. Remember to subscribe, leave a like, enjoy the last episode guys, and may the force be with you.